What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Retro Hoop Collectibles. News dropped that I felt kind of imminent. If you remember, I don't think I did a video on it, just simply because it was already well covered. But just to kind of recap, the CEO of the parent company that owned Beckett pleaded guilty to like a $2 or $3 billion money laundering scheme. Essentially, dude's going to jail. He's stealing money, all that good stuff. And so that kind of made the rounds, obviously, in the hobby news, because for as kind of crappy as the history has been for Beckett over the last, 3 or 4 years, it's still a very big name in the hobby. But today, as reported by Collect Media, Beckett Media and Collectibles has a new parent company called Collectivus Holdings. And I think it was, who else announced that? I think it was Sports Card Investor, who also announced that not only is this new holding company, Collectivus, the parent company of Beckett, they're also the new parent company of a company called Dragon Shield, which I'm not familiar with, but it seems that within the TCG community, it's a pretty big name. In terms of like mats and play mats and storage for your TCG cards and things like that. They're a pretty big company. And then also they are now the holding company or the parent company for Southern Hobby Distributions. And if you're not aware, Southern Hobby Distributions is probably the largest distributor of all Panini, Topps, Upper Deck, Pokemon, you name it. If you sell it on a 3.5 by 2 inch card, it's probably getting distributed by Southern Hobby. There's a couple other distribution companies, but I think Southern Hobby is the biggest one. So again, pretty big news. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's the people that are behind all of this. We'll kind of start digging it. So when I saw this immediately, the first thing I went to do was to do some research on everything that was happening. And I started to look up, because originally the way that I read it, and I read this wrong, shout out to my boy JD and Lou. I originally was like, oh, Darren Ravel, who's the owner of Collect, which is just a media, like sort of a media company. They bought Beckett. I was like, wow, man, I didn't know Darren Ravel had that kind of motion, but all right, cool. But they were just the ones to announce it. And so I started kind of doing some digging, and I couldn't really find anything on this Collectivus holding company. I started trying to look on different sites, business sites, and trying to see what this was all about. And I found a PR Newswire article that was published today, December 17th, that mentioned Collectivus. Now, it is a Texas-based, Dallas-based company, which so was Beckett. So I kind of started to dig a little bit. So this Collectivus Holdings, all the announcements of everything that's coming. Obviously, the big thing here is to invest in Beckett and try to get it to turn around. I'll get to that, my thoughts on that in a second. But one of the names that popped up in the article, it says, today, Collectivus Holding, home to the hobby's premium brands, was established, as an umbrella company over the industry leaders. I don't know about industry leaders, but they used to be industry leaders. And Dragon Shield and Southern Hobby Distribution. So it seems that this Collectivus holding company was just established. Just established today, and they're moving Beckett underneath this new holding company. Now, possibly the reason why they're doing that is they're probably trying to distance themselves and completely disconnect themselves from all the nonsense that's going on with this guy that did the $1 billion worth of money laundering and all that jazz. So they're trying to just completely like get away from that. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there's been like a kind of rotating door of like CEOs and owners and all this other stuff. Originally it was that guy Kunal Chopra, I think was his name. That guy's moved on. I mean, he was like the Beckett CEO for like a year or something like that. He's moved on. He's doing like mineral things, or I don't know what compliance stuff. I don't know. He's moved on to something else. But it said this news coincides with the recently executed lending agreement, which will revitalize the company's ability to invest in all three Collectivus brands, as well as growing its portfolio. It says, "We are thrilled. It's truly a new beginning," said Kevin Isaacson. So I got a little curious and went to go look at Kevin Isaacson's. And this is one of the cool things about the hobby growing in the way that it's growing, and all this big money coming in, and all these people that are coming into the hobby to run these legacy companies. Kevin Isaacson, I started looking at his experience, and he has a LinkedIn profile. And as of today, he is listed as the CEO for the Beckett Group as of May of last year. So May 2023, that'd be coinciding right around when Kunal exited Beckett. Kevin Isaacson took over as the CEO of Beckett. He was also, since July of 2021, the CEO of Southern Hobby. Okay, so running both of those companies, he is now the CEO of Collectivus Holdings, which includes both of those companies, as well as the Dragon. What's the name of the other one? Dragon Shield. So Kevin Isaacson, now the new, I guess, CEO of the company that owns all three of these companies. And again, the thing here, you guys, I'll link the PR News article in the description if you guys want to go back and read it. All kinds of stuff there. Basically, what they're trying to do, it seems to me that setting up this new umbrella company is allowing them to begin to borrow money to try to revitalize Beckett. And here's my thoughts on that. I have them over there. Beckett pricing guides. I'm 41 years old. I'll be 41 here in a couple months. I'm 40 years old. For me, Beckett price guides have a lot of nostalgia behind them. They are they used to be the one true source of understanding what your collection was worth. And then on top of that, it just had a lot of good articles. And, I used to be a big Slam magazine buyer. I used to buy Slam magazines all the time. So I love that kind of stuff. This was before the internet, where the only place where you could scroll and look at cool stuff was in a magazine. So I, for one, am pretty optimistic about seeing Beckett reworked and revived, because even though Beckett as an operation is complete dog shit right now, I think they're like listed as like the number 4. It's like PSA, CGC, SGC, and then Beckett is like way down at the bottom of that list. They actually shout out to the guys over at what was it? I read part of the article. It might not have been this article. It might have been a different article, but according to GemRate, so shout out to guys at GemRate. In the month of November, PSA graded 1.2 million cards, CGC graded 218,000, SGC graded 129,000, and Beckett only graded 34,000. So listen, nobody's using them as a grading company anymore, and probably the only reason why they have a little bit of pulse left has mainly to do with nostalgia and the name of Beckett. So I, for one, am happy to see them kind of get revived and reworked, and hopefully kind of go back to being like the kind of the media powerhouse that they were for sports card collecting back when I used to buy Beckett price guides, right? I just think that as like I was saying, as a operation for grading your cards, they're obviously bottom of the barrel. They're not doing too well. I mean, the hobby itself has kind of lost confidence in them, and probably the only reason why they're holding on is because when they were at the top of the heap, essentially before PSA came around, was during a time that a lot of these big name guys now that we're considering like legends that are still playing the game, your Steph Currys, your Jordans, there's a lot of cards that are high value that are still in Beckett slabs. And so, that's kind of why they probably still carry a little bit of weight for themselves. But nonetheless, as of today, as of December 17th, 2024, they don't really have much weight to themselves. They're not doing very well. So hopefully this new restructuring, it's essentially just corporate restructuring. Nobody's really buying anything. Nobody bought anything. Nobody, they just reestablished themselves as a single entity, as opposed to being part of like this clusterfuck that was this money laundering and all that stuff that going on. So I think this is good for Beckett. I'm optimistic. I'm hoping. I'm not gonna say I'm optimistic, but I'm rooting for him. I hope that they kind of turn things around and really start to push to kind of get back to that top tier in the market. I'm not sure how successful they'll be because PSA has a pretty good hold on it. But anyway, just big news, I think, in the hobby. Is it going to work? Is it too little, too late? I don't know. This Kevin Isaacson guy seems to have the pedigree of an executive that's kind of rose through the ranks and seems to have a pretty good foothold on distribution from Southern Hobby and all this other stuff. So we'll see how he manages to steer that ship. I mean, it's basically turning around the Titanic inside of a bathtub. I mean, it's not going to be easy for these guys to kind of get back on course. But I would say if there's ever to take a good first step, this is the first step you want to take. And we'll see how they end up panning out. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget, check out my eBay store, go buy some cards, check out Collect 3D for all of your display cases, and check out the good folks over at Card Capsule for all of your storage, top loader, penny sleeves, cases, all that stuff. Cardcapsule.us, and you can use the code RetroHoops for 10% off. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Love y'all.